Okay, guys, we are live. This is Dave's LFC Chats. Hit the like, hit the share, give us a sub, show us you care. I know Chris Pajak wants that saying, but it's copyrighted. Dan Clubbe, Redmen TV. How are you?
Yes, mate, I'm all good. Massively appreciate you having me on, mate. I'm looking forward to getting stuck into it. It's weird being a guest and not a host sometimes, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm not even a host. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? But look, do you know what it is? I've actually been thinking about getting you on for a long time. I seen a great interview, a great chat you had recently with a guy from Holland. I don't know whether he was a journalist or he was in the game. It was like an Arne Slot deep dive, basically. Yeah. And it was and I was looking at it going, wow, he knows his stuff. This Dan Clubbe guy, I better get him on. And so I asked, fair play to you for coming on. Redmen TV as well are always very helpful to the cause. So as I say, guys, get your comments in. We're live. Hit the like, hit the share. You know what to do. You know what Redmen TV is. I don't have to tell you that. We all know who, and I'm sure the content's going to be crazy with Arne Slot's interview today. We're going to go talk about Arne Slot. We're going to talk about him in about 5-10 minutes. But I want to talk about the main man. He's gone. We know he's gone. He's going to be watching as a fan. I'm sure he was probably even watching Arne Slot's interview today. It is Jurgen Norbert Klopp. I want to talk a quick thing about his legacy and what he's left. He's left the club in a really good place. We heard Arne Slot mentioning that today. The foundation's brilliant at Liverpool, so it makes life easy for anybody coming in. Still a big job in his hands, don't get me wrong, but it's certainly easier coming into a club without Liverpool's foundations that it would be coming into a chaoticness. So what do you think of, I mean, you were at the meeting, you were at that famous green tracksuit, Adidas tracksuit at AXA with Jurgen. What was that day like? That must have been dreamland, was it?
Yeah, I mean, life might have peaked in and around that hour and a half. I was in that room with Jurgen, and, you know, I was very fortunate to be there, let's put it that way. I'm very lucky to do the job that I do, first and foremost. But yeah, to meet Jurgen was really special. And he was just like, you've probably heard this a million times, but he was just a normal fella. Like, he genuinely was. And there was no sort yeah, I don't want to use it to coin his own phrase, really. But yeah, he honestly was. Like, he was just so humble, just so sound to be around, just boss to meet him, like honestly, like just a normal guy, and just great to chat to him, like off camera and stuff like that. Just yeah, real pleasure, real privilege to be in the same room as him and to have a quick chat to him and to speak to him about just life. Really, it was brilliant. It really was. Wow. Yeah, in terms of his legacy, I mean, I've said it feels like 100 times since that fateful day when that first interview came out when he announced that he was leaving. He has been and will forever be far more than the football manager to Liverpool Football Club. Like what we achieved on the pitch with him, we'll talk about forevermore, obviously. The memories, the games, the results, the goals, the trophies, of course. We'll never stop talking about them, and rightfully so. But beyond that, in terms of like the legacy he's left, you said it a moment ago, and obviously how he changed our whole lives, the city as well, not just from a football perspective. It's been remarkable. Like honestly, the best way I can sum him up is that sentence: more than a football manager. So many football clubs have a manager and they have success. Of course they do. But does it really transcend that? Very often not. Jurgen Klopp transcended that for us. Like, he was everything. He just got it, didn't he, from day one? It really was a pleasure to call him our manager, even though we didn't win perhaps what we might have deserved or we should have done. But it was still just what a ride.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe it that day. I was in work. I thought it was a prank. I thought it was, you know what I mean? It came left field. It was totally left field. Everybody was caught off guard. Obviously, people knew in the club and stuff, but wow. But you know what I thought was special? He got an unbelievable send-off, by the way. I mean, what other manager gets a send-off like that? And what other manager sings Arne Slot's bloody song for an incoming manager? I mean, that's ridiculous in itself.
Yeah, it is, mate. Yeah, it is. But that, again, it speaks to the man. It's testament to who he is. And you mentioned it earlier on at the top of the show about sort of leaving Liverpool in a good place. And he's done that in terms of the squad and the foundations, and the academy's never been so healthy and all that sort of boss stuff. And it really is boss. But it's one sort of parting gift to make sure we as fans felt everything was going to be okay, was to sing a song for the incoming manager. Like, as you say, nobody else does that. But straight away, he was like, I want you to almost forget about me if you can, as hard as that is, and focus on the new guy. And to help you along the way, I'm loving the new guy already. I'm going to back the new guy. And that's just him in a nutshell, isn't it, basically?
It's unbelievable. But I mean, like, as I said a few minutes ago, he's left the club. I mean, I think his thing was doubters to believers and all that type of thing. But when he came into Liverpool, we were a bit all over the shop, and our direction was slightly off, and we had issues and player issues, and the stadium wasn't so good, and the training ground, it was Melwood, but it was aging. You know what I mean? It's an iconic, legendary training ground, but it was aging in modern European football and stuff. And now the legacy he's left. Okay, Europe, we won the first league in over 30 years. That's unbelievable. Premier League, Champions League, European Cup, 6 in 3 finals, FA Cups, League Cups, Super Cups, Club World Cup for the first time. All those things, even the records. He was breaking more records than Roy Castle in record breakers. The Beatles was breaking records everywhere. Most wins in a row and clean sheets. Record City. And people might rightly say probably should have won more with that team we had that 2-3 year where we were unbelievable. We were intergalactic level. Could we won another league twice, only a point in it? Who would forget the Villa 2-0 up with 20 minutes to go? Less 20 minutes to go. We only needed the draw, never mind lose the bloody game.
Yeah.
So in looking in life. But as you say, he's been more than a manager. It's more than football. So it's bigger than that. And that's what I think the legacy of Jurgen Klopp is. It's not about the wins even. It's more than that.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, and obviously, like I say, when we look back, in time to come, in the fullness of time, I think we'll all, again, remember the trophies, remember the glory, remember the trips and the European nights and the successes along the way. Absolutely. But I think almost immediately after a lot of those thoughts will just be the man and the person that he was and the things that he said and the stuff that he did along the way, as opposed to the actual football. The football will always be prevalent because that's what we are. We're football fans. That's why we love the football club, because of what happened on the pitch. But again, I think with somebody like Klopp, he was so much more than that. And you said it there as well. During his tenure, Liverpool as an entity, as a football club, have grown and grown and grown and gone from strength to strength. And, so much of that, almost all of that, is down to what Jurgen Klopp has done. Like you said, I live 5 minutes from Melwood, where I am here, and I go past it nearly every day. And you're right, it is what it is. And it's recently sort of been modernised again with the women going there. And that's boss, because that's part of Liverpool's history. I love that. But you're right, at the time, Liverpool had to move on as a squad, as a first team, and go into the AXA was one of the smartest things we've done in recent history, as well as appointing Jurgen Klopp. So you're absolutely spot on, and he has left us. That's the best thing you can say about any football manager, really. Obviously, you want to win stuff along the way if you can, but if you leave the club in a better place than what you found it, you've more or less done your job, really.
Yeah, no, I know it's absolutely brilliant. And as he said, he's going to be looking on as a fan now. He's probably even watching this. Hi, Jurgen, if you're watching. But I'll tell you, Jurgen's gone. But as he's looking on as a fan, his heart obviously will never leave Liverpool and the stadium. I'm sure we know. And even Arne Slot said today, I'm sure he's been on the phone to Klopp, getting information, talking about it and stuff like that. So Arne Slot coming in from Feyenoord. You did a good deep dive in him recently. He had his interview today. I'm sure you've seen the interview. Mm-hmm. What's your first impressions today, especially after that interview? Did Arne stand out for Arne Slot for you?
Yeah, I think more generally, in terms of what stood out, was the fact that he was just so honest. And actually, I'd go beyond that. I'd say he was very much himself. I think it would have been easy, because I spoke to Chris actually on one of our news shows early on today after it was announced that the interview was coming out. And I asked Chris sort of, what do you want from him? And he kind of said, just to be himself. Don't try and say anything, because you mentioned earlier on the doubters to believers line that sort of followed Klopp throughout his time at Liverpool till the very last day.
Yeah.
Did Arne Slot need something like that? Probably not. He just needs to be who he is, because he can't be Jurgen Klopp 2.0. It's almost impossible. Don't try and be that. Don't try and copy what Klopp did. Just be honest. Be true to yourself. And I felt like he was that. He's clearly so excited to be Liverpool manager as well. You can tell. He's just buzzing. And that, for me, is almost enough. He's bang up for the job. He's clearly very intelligent. His track record's very impressive. Whether it translates or not from the Eredivisie to the Premier League remains to be seen. Obviously, that's the huge question mark that we all want to know. But based on the interview today, I think I see a man who's just relishing the challenge. He's bang up for it. And all the people I've spoken to, I must have done 10, 15 shows in and around Arne Slot, of people that worked with him, played under him, managed him himself, all kinds of different people from all different walks of life. And they all speak so well of him, football-wise and as a person. And again, on face value, you can't really ask much more than that. So I'm really excited and really positive about what he's going to bring to Liverpool. It's going to be different. There's definitely trepidation. There's definitely nerves. And ultimately, we could all be sat here in 6 months, a year's time going, well, that didn't quite work. But right now, I think I'm feeling good about it. And I never thought I'd be saying that a year ago. If you'd have said, Jurgen Klopp's going to leave in 9 months' time, will you be excited 3 months later? I'd be going, no, obviously not. But right now, I am. So that speaks to how impressed I've been by the very early stages of Arne Slot.
Do you know what? And another thing was, people were giving out about Arne Slot. You know, we didn't hear anything about it. We knew he's going to be the manager, and there was no interview. I think he might have done it about right because of the fact that Jurgen was so iconic and so big a deal. There was the world was all over the fact that Jurgen was leaving. There was interviews coming out. You did one yourself. You know, they let that. I'm not saying die, but they let that just, you know, give it time to rest. Rather than the following week, Arne Slot comes in. You know, I think it might have been the right thing to do.
No, I think you're right. Absolutely. Yeah, we've had time to, you know, for want of a better expression,
digest.
time to grieve, time to
digest. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that was right because, you know, 8.5, 9 on 9 years of Jurgen Klopp is a long time, especially when you've been on the journey that we've been on with him. I think it was right that was allowed this time. We were allowed to enjoy the final throes of Klopp's tenure. We were allowed to, like say, digest what had been quite an emotional farewell for everyone involved. So, yeah, to give it that little bit of breathing space felt like a sensible move. But I also think, sort of flip side of that as well, you know, he hadn't been at Feyenoord anywhere near as long time-wise, but he had a very successful time at Feyenoord. And he was leaving them as much as Klopp was leaving us. So from a Feyenoord point of view, did they want to see their manager who'd brought them the Eredivisie title, like a week after leaving Feyenoord, walk straight into a Liverpool job and go, look at all this, how shiny, how brilliant's this? So I think from both clubs, there's been that sort of mutual respect. And Arne Slot's probably been at the centre of that going, let's just take our time, let's get it right, let's wait until it feels right. And I think they've more or less done it spot on. And I get why, you know, social media fans, and I'm one of them, of course, we're saying, why aren't we hearing from the new manager? I want to hear what he's got to say, etc., etc. I get that first for that because it's a big deal. Hearing from your new manager, we remember Jurgen Klopp's first press conference, and again, we still hash up clips and speak about that to this very day. So it can be really important. But I also think there's that fine balance between getting that out there and getting the timing right when you're speaking about real emotional situations with Klopp and Feyenoord at the other end. So, yeah, difficult one, but I think they've just about nailed it.
Yeah. Another thing he was saying today, I just clipped, and he was talking about the fact that there was a few Premier League clubs and big clubs in Europe sniffing around last year. What he had done with Feyenoord, you know, I think they won the first league in over 20 years. They won the cup last year. You know, he was doing well with Alkmaar, AZ Alkmaar, I think the year before. They were unlucky in COVID and they could have won it that year. I think they were a few points ahead of Ajax that year. You know, Canberra as well, he started out on. He played a bit of football himself. But, you know, he waited and waited. I think Spurs were linked or rumoured to linked and wanting them to Chelsea maybe as well. But he waited for the big job. He signed a 2-year extension. But when Liverpool came knocking, you know, it changed his mind. And that's how you know how big a club Liverpool really is at the end of the day. If Liverpool come knocking on your door, there's only a few clubs like that. You have to go for it.
Yeah, I imagine that's a very difficult thing to say no to, first and foremost. But at the same time, I think it's a timing element as well from him. I think I was told recently by somebody, I can't remember who it was, it might have been Sander Westerveld that I spoke to about him, who's quite a good friend of Arne Slot, said it was more a case of he didn't feel ready to leave Feyenoord, as opposed to the Spurs job. And listen, he might have looked at the Spurs job and gone, that's not for me. But at the same time, it was more the fact that he didn't feel like the time was right to walk away from the Feyenoord job. He had unfinished business there, as opposed to not wanting to manage Tottenham. Whereas a year further down the line, he felt like he'd done all he could do at Feyenoord a little bit. And again, as you say, rightfully so, Liverpool come knocking, you're more often than not, you're going to be jumping at the opportunity. So, yeah, and what I will say just on that, actually, I think, you know, obviously there was the Xabi Alonso rumours and the Xabi Alonso talk, and that's no surprise whatsoever when you consider the job he's done at Bayer Leverkusen. And this isn't to say that he didn't fancy the challenge, because I'm almost certain he would have done. But one of the big ticks in the Arne Slot box for me has been the fact that, and it came out today in his interview as well, he clearly backs himself. And that's not to say he's arrogant, but
he's confident. He's confident.
To follow somebody like Jurgen Klopp, who's left such a mark, an indelible mark on a football club at the size of Liverpool, is very, very difficult. And a lot of managers would look at that and go, not for me. We've seen what happened with United and David Moyes, poison chalice, never going to work. So many managers would look at that and go, I don't want to be the guy to follow the guy. I'll wait till a couple of people fail first. But Arne Slot's gone, do you know what? I'm the man. I can do it. And I love that.
Yeah. No, he comes across an intelligent fella. He's only what, mid-40, 45. He's 2 kids. He's grown up for 45. I mean, he knows the game. And another thing, I seen a great interview on him. I think it was ex-coaches talking about him, saying that he's not say quirky, but he has all these unusual ideas. A bit like Klopp bringing in my mate Thomas Gronemark, the throwing coach. I only did a video of him the other day. I've done a few videos with him, but it's an unusual type of thing. It's left field, but he does this stuff with meditation, and he does all these other sort of quirky things that you might, psychological things around games, and doesn't he? A lot of stuff like that you mightn't think. I don't know whether you know that or not, but he does a lot of stuff like that.
I know he's not afraid to think outside the box. I know he had Dan Abrahams, who's a sports psychologist, employed at Feyenoord for a little while. I've spoken to Dan in the past. Hello, Michlad. I've spoken to Dan in the past, and he's a good guy, and he knows his stuff. So, again, he's not afraid to try and find those fine margins that can be the difference and can really sort of push you to the next level and make you ahead of the competitors, really. And that's what you need sometimes when you are at the very, very highest level in the elite of football. Sometimes when you're going up against a juggernaut the size of Manchester City, even Arsenal these days, you've got some of the best players in the world at your disposal, and everything seems like it's finely tuned and it's working. What can be that little 1% that makes you beat Manchester City next time around? And sometimes it can be your throwing coaches, your set piece coaches, which I know Liverpool are in the market for right now. As you mentioned, sort of psychiatry, psychology, that sort of stuff. So he's definitely an out of the box thinker, which I have no issue with whatsoever. I know he's a big fan of lots of other sports, including paddle, which obviously Jurgen Klopp would be liking as well. So yeah, I have no issue whatsoever. And Liverpool have become, one of the front runners really in terms of getting different people from different fields in. They had their neuroscientists recently helping them with penalty taking, and obviously mentioned Thomas Gronemark as well. So I think we're just going to see a continuation of that. And even the goalkeeper coach they've appointed, obviously got confirmed today, Fabian Otter, I think.
Otto,
Otter. I've been looking into him for the past hour and a half, and he is a really fascinating individual. Like, I love John Achterberg, love him to pieces. But
John, I'm hoping to have John on the next week or two. John's a top lad.
But he was, with all due respect in the world, a very good goalkeeper coach, but a very good goalkeeper coach. This guy looks like he's got like a PhD in like excellent performance, and so he's a real thinker of the game and a thinker of goalkeeping and a studier. So it's another example of the type of people Arne Slot likes to surround himself with. So it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be interesting. And we're not going to stay on much longer, but I just want to find out. I mean, obviously, recruitment, transfers, everybody loves a transfer and stuff like that. I mean, we have a really good squad. As I said earlier, we have a few issues contract-wise to sort out with big players. Obviously, Mo Salah, Trent, Van Dijk. I think Van Dijk more or less said he will stay. And he is the captain. He is Dutch. So you'll have that Dutch connection. I'd be very surprised if Van Dijk doesn't sign some sort of an extension. I think he sort of said something at the end of the season that he's probably going to hold on to see what's happening. I think Salah and Trent are the big two. But because you want to tie them down, get that over with before pre-season. I know they're away, international duty and stuff. And then coming in, everybody talks about the big three you'd want: centre half, central midfielder, maybe a striker. There's the three. What do you think? What do you think coming in? He doesn't want too many changes, obviously.
No, I think it's fine tuning, perhaps quality over quantity when it comes to the transfer market this window. To be honest with you, I would definitely get a centre half in this summer. I think that's a bit of a no-brainer. That would be my starting point as sort of a non-negotiable. After that, I think maybe you look at the number 6 department. That a lot of that will depend on Stefan Bajcetic's fitness, I would say, and also the formation Arne Slot wants to play as well. I think in the front line, I think it will all sort of centre around departures. And if there's a surprise departure, a Diaz, a Salah, dare I say it, a Darwin Núñez, I think then you might have to do something in that department. I don't think it's necessarily essential right now, if I'm being honest. I would like to see an extra one come in just to sort of be a backup in and around it. But again, not a definite for me. In terms of the contracts, as you say, Virgil van Dijk is your starting point, I'd say, very closely followed by Trent Alexander-Arnold. I have no issues around the Van Dijk one. I did a show with James Pearce last week, and he said Van Dijk's desperate to stay. Really, really happy. So there's no problem. Well, there shouldn't be any problems there. Hopefully, likewise with Trent Alexander-Arnold, that'd be my next one. And then the Salah one, that's so complicated, isn't it? That's so complicated. I think in an ideal world, he would sign sort of a year, possibly a 2-year extension, and then you revisit it a little bit further down the line. But I would not like to put.
I can't see Liverpool letting him go on a free. He's only a year left. Can't see it.
That'd be my last option, personally, I would say. And on that comment there, Matip is a no-brainer to replace, as I said earlier on, to be honest with you. Thiago, again, I come back to what I said about Stefan Bajcetic. I think if you can guarantee a fitter Stefan Bajcetic, I'm not sure you need to enter the market, because you've got like Bobby Clark's a year older, Fabio Carvalho could well play a role, who knows? So, that'll be an interesting one. I think midfield's pretty covered. Maybe an upgrade for Wataru Endo, but different conversation.
Well, I said another thing I heard about him. He does love wingers. He loves attack and play, and he used to use a lot. He used to have 1 or 2 wingers on the bench, so he'd run the arse off them. They'd be up and down, running up and down the line, and energy wise, and he'd always have substitutions, say 20, 25 minutes, because they'd be working so hard. He loves that press, similar to Klopp, of course. And I think there's similarities between the two of them, even characteristics similar. Similar stuff, and that's probably why Liverpool actually went out to get him. To be fair.
No, I think you're absolutely spot on, and I think, again, definitely Sander Westerveld this time said exactly the same thing. He said there's loads of similarities, and he'll know them both on a personal level. So there is 100% in terms of their personality, their characteristics, but also in terms of their football. I think they both want to play front-footed, attack-minded football and take the game to the opposition, and they like it to be fast-paced. They like goals to be involved, and from an attacking point of view. So, I think absolutely spot on. The winger situation is going to be interesting. I think, from what I've been told and what I've seen, I think he likes his wingers to be wingers as well sometimes. Actually gets to the byline and actually put crosses in. Now, that obviously isn't Mohamed Salah. That's more akin to a Ben Doak type winger, which you don't really see in the modern game anymore. So whether he gets a more of a look in, provided he can stay fit, who knows? Definitely in pre-season, I would imagine. Hopefully. So, there's loads of unanswered questions. And I think we're all basing what Arne Slot might do and what he's done previously, because what else is there to go off in terms of sample size? There isn't anything. But he could also come in, look at what Jurgen Klopp's left him, look at what Jurgen Klopp did, and sort of just tweak it in around that and put his own stamp on that a little bit, and just continue and get the continuation of what Klopp done so brilliantly.
As you say, we're going to leave it now in a minute, but just basically, excitement, especially at that interview today, excitement, a bit of trepidation. Obviously, it's a bit of a risk. I mean, you're coming in after an absolute legendary manager, one of the best managers Liverpool have had, to be fair, especially in the modern era. And it's going to be hard to step into those footsteps. So I think this guy has a chance. Team got to get behind him. The fans got to get behind him. He's got to have it. I seen Ipswich away. It's not an easy first game in the Premier League, of course. Maybe United, I think, in the third game. So, no game in the Premier League is easy. That's the thing. It's a different league than the Eredivisie in Holland. It's a totally different league. I'm sure he knows. He watched a lot of the Premier League, he said, especially Liverpool against City. He does like that type of thing. So I'm really looking forward to it. Let's get 2 or 3 players in. I think we go to the States for a pre-season soon. The players will be back after the Euros. I'm sure Redmen TV will have content coming out their ears. Is there anything in particular coming up for Redmen or shows or anything like that?
Well, both Bobby Firmino documentaries are coming to YouTube soon, which is good. Other than that, we just day-to-day shows in terms of transfers and stuff like that. Expert insights, left, right, and centre. Transfer insights, left, right, and centre. Obviously, we have a journal insight weekly with Paul Gorst or occasionally Ian Doyle, formerly Neil Jones's parish, of course. So, we will have you covered. I will try and keep you covered from every possible angle when it comes to the transfers over the summer. If Liverpool are seriously linked with somebody, there's a good chance I'm speaking to somebody who knows that person quite well. So, make sure you check it out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Redmen TV, top class legends. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much to Dan Clubbe from Redmen TV. I'll have to get you on again maybe the end of the season, but I'm looking forward to it. Cannot wait. The Euros are on. Is it still 2-0 to Germany?
It's just finished 2-0 to Germany. Yeah, it has. Dom Sabozlai. I seen the comment before about Sabozlai. He was playing all right. He was first half, which I actually watched properly. I thought he was sound. He was quite unlucky not to score once or twice, as were Hungary. So Yeah, he's probably out of the competition now, though, so at least he's going to have an early exit and get to Liverpool.
Back to Liverpool. That's the main thing for us. We want our players back
Exactly.
and ready to rock and roll for the new season against Ipswich. So, Dan Clubbe, Redmen TV, chat in the comments. Thank you very much. We'll do it again. Stay safe. Talk soon. A new era is incoming. Cheers. Stay safe.